But it's our pleasure to welcome now Mike Hurst. He's a former U.S. attorney and currently serves as the chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party. Mike, always good to see you, sir.
Great to see you, too. Thanks, Gerard. Thanks for having me.
You bet. So let's start with the municipal elections last week. The party, with your leadership, got fairly involved in the situation down in Gulfport.
Yep.
Hugh Keating looks like is going to prevail.
Yep.
The Republican candidate for governor replacing, mayor replacing, I didn't mean to promote him real quick.
Or demote him, I don't know what he would have said.
That's true. Replacing Billy Hughes, Mayor
right.
Billy Hughes, who done a great job in the city of Gulfport, who decided not to seek re-election. But some shenanigans going on down there. You guys had a big press conference last weekend. We're down and brought in Senator Tim Scott to promote the get out the vote efforts, just to make sure, because it appears that the Democrat candidate, Sonia Barnes, and her apparatus, it appears, at least allegedly, were involved in some questionable practices with respect to voting.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, I was notified on a Monday night that this was going on, and so we started investigating, started getting evidence from those who were on the ground in Gulfport, and we started seeing these vouchers. I think they were entitled Souls to the Polls, free food vouchers. And it said on the voucher that if you vote, you can use this voucher for a meal at a local restaurant. And it said the vouchers were good through June 3rd. Now, ironically, June 3rd was the election day. So, obviously, we started collecting more evidence, and we found out not only did that happen, the Souls to the Polls vouchers that they were handing out in front of the city hall, on the steps of the city hall, as voters went in to vote absentee and came out, were handed vouchers, except when a Republican voter came out, asked for a voucher. The lady who was handing out the vouchers denied, lied and said she didn't know what he was talking about. Lied and said, she was just there watching for the Democratic mayoral candidate's campaign. And then at the very end, she said this: "Don't you be starting no trouble," to the Republican voter. So it was clear to us that this was being done for Democrats, only for Democrats. And then once the Democratic mayoral candidate realized what she had done or what her campaign had done, they started trying to give vouchers to others. And so this was why we called attention to this, because this was the Democrats literally buying votes in contravention of state law. And the weekend before, they had a thing on a Saturday. It said, if you come vote here on Saturday, you will get a voucher, or you will get a wristband, actually, to attend a free brunch right after we vote at 10 a.m., and we'll go to this restaurant and have a free brunch. This is what they were doing in order to try to buy this election. And we just had to the media was not covering it. The media was not picking up on it. And so we went down there almost 2 weeks ago, the Wednesday before the election, and held a press conference just to shine light on this, just to call for the district attorney and the attorney general to look into this. And it turns out the attorney general's office had already been looking into this before we called a light into it. So good for them.
Well, this distinction you just pointed out, where a Republican voter was asked not to go starting any trouble.
Yeah.
I wasn't aware of that. So that's a little color.
That's right.
That we weren't. Because I think technically, when you and I talked about this prior, that, if you want to just give somebody a voucher to eat, if you prove you voted, I don't know that there's anything necessarily. I mean, it's borderline at best.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, the statute's ambiguous in the sense that it says one cannot exchange their vote for something of substantial value or money.
Okay.
And so it's ambiguous. It is ambiguous. But when you start, here's my point. And we laid this out in a letter that I sent to the AG's office and the DA's office. We laid out all those statements I just said by that Democratic person handing out the voucher. But my point is, if you're not doing anything wrong, why are you hiding?
Yeah, that's true.
Why are you lying?
That's true.
Why are you not allowing Republicans to get these vouchers and only allowing Democrats?
Well, if they are in fact discriminating against Republicans in the issuing of these vouchers, that sounds to me like you are in fact attempting at least to coerce, to compensate in exchange for a specific vote for a specific candidate,
absolutely,
rather than just the act of voting.
Right. And I think the Democrats were so hell-bent on making sure they won this race. I mean, go back 2 years ago in the gubernatorial race throughout the state, and what I was told was, Brandon Presley won the city of Gulfport over our governor, Tate Reeves.
Yeah.
And so the Democrats were fired up. They got help from outside, a lot of money from outside, a lot of people, surrogates from outside. But, you know, we had to shine a light on the illegal activity that was going on down there. And then we also brought in Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina, who is an incredible speaker, motivator. I mean, just a gentleman of a man. And he came down that Friday before the election and just really fired up the base, and I think really helped get the Republicans to the polls. And hats off to Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith for getting him down there.
Yeah. And she was there as well.
She was.
Right? Yeah.
She was.
So, yeah, it looked like a great event, and you guys did just kudos to you and the whole team. Really.
Well, we're very blessed at the Mississippi Republican Party, having an incredible staff. Rance Bilbo is our executive director, Leslie Davis, our vice chairwoman and committee woman, Frank Bordeaux, our committee man from the RNC. And, you know, we did text messaging, we did social media boosted post, we helped coordinate phone banking. I mean, we tried to do everything that we could in our power with our resources to try to get folks to the poll. And we did, and we surprised some folks. I mean, we won the city of Philadelphia mayor's race as a Republican, maybe the first time ever. And people just didn't see that coming. You know, Winona, Amory, other places, you know, that people just took us for granted, and we came in and we won those races. And then we lost some. We did lose Horn Lake. We did lose Brookhaven. But I would tell you, I've spoken to our team and the resources we put into there, and I think we did everything we could to do.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, I feel like that is one of the primary missions of the party.
Absolutely.
You get into a general election like this, whatever you can do, the party should get behind, use its resources to get people to polls and make sure they vote Republican.
Yeah.
I mean, that's your core mission.
And that's what I've told our staff and our leadership. I said, look, we need to get back to the traditional blocking and tackling of what I think a state party should be doing, which is trying to focus on these local races. We as Republicans, we as conservatives believe that the best form of government is that which is closest to the people. And that's why we try to pour our heart and souls in helping regain, not only retain the mayoral positions we had, but to gain new ones. And I think we're successful overall.
Yeah. And so you got to be, I think, overall pleased with the results
absolutely.
Last week.
I mean, Gulfport's our second largest city in the state of Mississippi. The numbers, as I mentioned, from the gubernatorial race looked really, really bad. And Hugh Keating and his team, they did a fantastic job, ran a great campaign.
They did.
And came out on top.
Yeah. And also kudos to Mayor Billy Hughes for staying involved and really helping Hugh Keating and push him across the finish line.
Yeah, Mayor Hughes has done an incredible job over the last number of years with Gulfport, with the aquarium, with the Shuckers. I mean, the things that have just blossomed under his leadership, I mean, he should be really commended for that.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's turn our attention to political matters on the national level.
Wait, is anything going on the national level?
Man, oh,
I haven't seen
man.
anything.
Well, first, you and I were talking offline as Rhino and I have been discussing all morning. The scenes in Los Angeles are so disheartening, so disappointing that these people who really don't deserve to be in this country are taking to our streets and disrupting and destroying and assaulting law enforcement. So the president says, enough of that. We can't have a functioning society. We're going to have law and order. This is no secret or surprise. He was like that in his first term. He made that a high priority throughout the campaign since he's been elected. So he says, okay, you guys aren't getting the job done here, Mayor Karen Bass and Governor Gavin Newsom. I'm sending in the National Guard.
Right. I love Rhino's point of let's just invite the Chinese premier, the communist government over to our country, and Gavin Newsom will clean it up in a heartbeat like he did with San Francisco.
Right.
I mean, it's incredible that how every elected official in this country, no matter party, how they cannot simply be for the upholding and the enforcement of our laws, just for law and order. We're not talking about anything else but law and order. Our representative democracy has passed these laws to keep the peace, to protect our law-abiding citizens. And these individuals, as you said, this is not civil, peaceful protest. This is flat-out illegal criminal rioting in the streets with Mexican flags. Explain that one to me. Explain Mexican flags being held up when they're protesting individuals who came to our country illegally from Mexico. I mean, how do you argue this is not, over the last 4 years, I would argue the last 4 years was a migrant invasion.
It is
a migrant invasion.
There's no doubt about
that was not only allowed but encouraged by the last administration. And thank the Lord, we have an administration now that is for the rule of law and for secure borders.
Yeah.
You know, I heard someone say, you know, you don't have a house without a door. You don't have a body without skin. You don't have a country without borders. And that's what this president is standing up for.
All good analogies. I agree. We got Mike Hurst. He's a former U.S. attorney and chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party. In the Element Well studio, we'll dig into this situation with the president, Elon Musk, when we come back. Studio, so she doesn't mind me saying this every now and then. My wife listens in, probably more than she admits, but she made an observation.
You better be careful. She's listening right now. So
she made an observation that the attitude and the temperature in the country is different than it was in the wake of the BLM riots. That people aren't as sympathetic, I think, is maybe one way to put it. Even people on the left that generally supported that crap back then, those of us on the right, I think for the most part said, sure, you want to go protest, fine. You start pillaging businesses and obstructing law enforcement, interfering with the rights of others. Nope, can't help you with that. You've crossed the line. Even, I think, people on the left who supported all that stuff, trying to be virtuous in 2020, I think now would say it's a bad idea that this is going on.
Yeah, I think you can support, like, equality and justice. I think we can all support that.
Sure.
I think you can support that without burning someone's business down, without torching a car, without throwing a brick through a cop's car. I mean, that's what's not only happened during those riots back in 2020 during this administration, but that is exactly what is happening now in L.A.
Agreed.
And the crazy thing, Gerard, is why the Democrats allow this? Are they allowing this just to try to promote themselves within their base? I mean, is this what the Democratic Party stands for now? The only thing I can see is that the common denominator through the riots of 2020, when President Trump tried to deploy National Guard to the January 6th protest, to the L.A. riots now, and even I can tell you about the city of Jackson, Mississippi. The common theme running is Democrats in control hate and oppose anything President Trump wants. Because when I was U.S. Attorney, the Department of Justice had a project called Project Legend, started in Kansas City, Missouri, and it was where the DOJ would basically send federal law enforcement, FBI, DEA, ATF, ICE, to a city that was having a lot of crime problems and temporarily assign them there for 90 days to try to get hold of the city, make it peaceful again. And we got department blessing to move that to Jackson, Mississippi, and Mayor Chokwe Lumumba said no.
Yeah.
The entire city council was in favor of it. Mayor Lumumba said no, and here's why he said no. He said no, and he didn't say no to me. He said no to some podcast, a Democratic podcast he was talking to. He said no because he didn't want Trump militarizing his city. Not that we were the nation's, the murder capital in the nation. Not that he didn't want to protect his citizens. Not that he wanted to bring professional federal law enforcement officers into our capital city to make it safer for people. Is because he opposed President Donald Trump.
So in other words, you don't want to solve the problem.
No, no.
The bottom line.
It's all politics over people.
Oh,
and that's what's sad.
Well, that totally is sad. And this is a situation where, honestly, it appears that the Los Angeles Police Department is overwhelmed. And what we don't know, of course, is it may be overwhelmed because the mayors and the chief of police are somehow in cahoots to kind of restrict the L.A. Police Department, that they're somewhat sympathetic.
Well, if it were my guess, that would be absolutely the case, because that was my experience when I was U.S. Attorney. We were trying to combat violent crime in the city of Jackson, and it worked well first until the mayor realized it was not good for his climbing the political ladder, and he started pulling back. He started pulling back police leadership and pulling back police participation, and, you can't do that job without working hand in hand with your local cops.
Well, we got to have, it's fundamental to the quality of life is you've got to have law enforcement.
And this is the first job, this is the first duty of government, We as human beings have established our government in order to first and foremost protect our citizens.
No doubt about it.
And that should not be a partisan issue. That should be a universal issue that we all agree on.
Completely agree. Well, let's hope that there's quick resolution to this situation. The streets of L.A. return to normal, and we get everything cleaned up. But in the meantime, the border czar, Tom Homan, he's out there looking for the illegals, and he's going to deport them with an emphasis, a priority placed on those that are committing crimes in this country.
And Tom is a great guy. I knew Tom when I was U.S. Attorney. We were both teaching on immigration enforcement at DOJ's training academy. And, man, there's no better person to be our immigration czar, our border czar, than Tom Homan. He's no-nonsense New Yorker. He just says it like it is, and that's exactly what we need right now in this day and age.
Excellent pick by the president. Agree. So let's talk about this little dust-up occurring between the president and Elon Musk. The latest from the president over the weekend is that he doesn't really have any interest or any plans at this point to have any conversation with Mr. Musk, who has, of course, resigned in accordance with the terms of the original agreement, though I actually think they could have figured out ways to extend that. But nonetheless, I think he was feeling some pressure as well to get back to his primary duties as the CEO of Tesla and these other companies. But at this point, it's somewhat disruptive, I guess is what you could say. Does this last, do you think, Mike, or does this blow over pretty quick?
Well, let me first say, we are indebted to what Elon did for the election last year. We're indebted to what he's done with Doge.
No doubt.
But this what people are calling the breakup, this schism between Elon and President Trump is just totally uncalled for, in my opinion, from Elon's point of view. Even if you disagree with someone, even if you leave employment, whatever, you should not go on a personal attack of that individual, which is what Elon has done here. To say that President Trump, the Epstein files have not been released because President Trump is in those, do you for a second think if that were true, that Joe Biden and his DOJ would not have released that over the last 2 years that he was running against Trump? I mean, that's crazy. And to defame President Trump that way and just to personally attack him. Again, disagree with policy all day long, but to personally go after the president like that, I have to call Elon out on that. And he's wrong. He's dead wrong. When someone comes after your character and your integrity and lies about you, I don't blame President Trump for not forgiving him. I mean, right now, if you have individuals that flat out lie to you in public, try to take you down, defame you for themselves, that person should be ostracized. And I hate to say that, but he's done it because he's done a lot of good for our country. I mean, the fact that he bought Twitter at a loss and saved freedom of speech in this country and allowed us to see what real news is like instead of having to rely on the left-wing, liberal, Main Street media, that is incredible. But don't ruin all of that. Don't ruin your credibility, your name, by going after your former, partner and trying to make our country better by defaming him and lying about him and making these unsubstantiated claims. That's just wrong. And again, it's kudos to the president for trucking on, but I hate to see this happen, and I hate to see Elon state these lies like this.
In fact, I think the president's response has been somewhat muted. I mean, typically if he's attacked, he's pretty good about giving it right back to him, but he's kind of just dismissed it and said, he's sick, he's got problems, he's got issues, and sort of just went past it.
Yeah.
In fact, what he said is, I'm focusing on getting the one big beautiful bill passed. I don't really have time to deal with Elon and his tirades right now.
And I think they will eventually mend fences, because I noticed last night on X, President Trump was tweeting about the issues in L.A. and the rioting and trying to get law and order reinstituted in L.A. And Elon was retweeting
it. Yeah, I saw it too.
I mean, he was liking it, American flags. I mean, so I do think there is an opportunity for resolution, for reconciliation. But at the same time, I think we as citizens and we as Americans, we have to hold, whether it's individuals like influencers and business people like Elon, or it's even our elected officials, we have to hold those people accountable for the truth telling. And if you start lying and you start making things up because you're mad at someone, it's personal attacks, we have to hold those people accountable. We can't allow those people to govern our country, govern our state, govern our communities.
Yeah. I mean, at the core of this is just a disagreement about the big budget package, the one big beautiful bill. Let's have a debate about that. That's perfectly fair and reasonable. We should be doing that in this country.
But it shouldn't be personal. If you disagree on policy, fine. You know, my wife and I, we've been married for over 27 years. We disagree on a lot of things, but we still love each other.
Sure.
You've just got to realize how to amicably fight and resolve situations like that.
We desperately need to restore that sort of civil discourse in our politics.
Absolutely. And frankly, we as Republicans, we've been on the forefront of that for the last number of years as Democrats and liberals try to cancel us, as we try to speak out, as we try to engage in debate. We offer debate. We invite a debate, but the response from the left and the response for progressives is shut it down. We don't want to debate because they don't have the policy. They are not on the right side of policy like we are.
Don't have a response.
That's
Mike,
right.
Appreciate you coming in, man.
Great to see you, Gerard.
Always good to see you. Mike Hurst, former U.S. Attorney, Chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth